The morning sun vanished over New York City as if someone had drawn a cosmic curtain across the sky. Sarah Chen looked up from her morning coffee, her eyes widening at the sight of the massive crystalline structure that now dominated the heavens. The Vraxian ship hung there like a diamond snowflake, its intricate geometric patterns refracting sunlight into prismatic displays that would have been beautiful if they weren't so terrifying. Similar scenes played out across every major city on Earth. Tokyo's skyline sparkled under the shadow of another vast ship, while London's Thames reflected the crystalline patterns of a third. Within hours, social media exploded with images and videos from Paris to Sydney, each showing the same breathtaking yet chilling sight. At the United Nations headquarters, emergency sirens blared as security personnel rushed world leaders to safety. General Maria Santos stood at the command center, watching as satellite feeds showed more ships emerging from what appeared to be tears in the fabric of space itself. Their silent arrival spoke of technology centuries beyond humanity's current capabilities. Multiple objects detected in high orbit, a technician announced, his voice steady despite the circumstances. Count currently at 27 and rising. The first sign that this wasn't an immediate attack came when every electronic device on Earth, from smartphones to military-grade communications equipment, activated simultaneously. The message that followed was broadcast in perfect English, though the voice carried an odd crystalline quality that matched the ship's appearance. People of Earth, the voice resonated through millions of speakers worldwide. We are the Vraxian Empire, masters of 1,000 star systems. Your world sits upon a natural phenomenon of great value, a junction point in the galaxy's hyperspace topology. We require this location for our continued expansion. In Times Square, crowds gathered despite police warnings, their faces illuminated by the alien-like show above. The voice continued, its tone neither threatening nor friendly, simply matter-of-fact. You have 30 rotations of your planet to evacuate. Those who wish to serve the Empire may apply for citizenship on our colonial worlds. Those who refuse will face elimination. This is not a negotiation. In her laboratory at Columbia University, Sarah Chen was already running analyses on the light patterns from the ships, her specialized equipment detecting unusual variations in their crystalline structures. Something about their formation seemed oddly rigid, almost too perfect. Colonel James Rodriguez, watching from the Pentagon's command center, noticed it too. The ships maintained precise geometric patterns in their formation, adjusting with mechanical regularity even when it seemed unnecessarily energy-intensive to do so. Look at their course corrections, he muttered, pointing to a tactical display. They're compensating for our atmosphere like it's their worst enemy. The next few hours brought chaos as governments worldwide struggled to formulate a response. Stock markets crashed, religious leaders called for calm, and military forces worldwide went to their highest alert status. Yet the Vraxian ships remained in their perfect formation, making those strange, constant adjustments. As the UN Security Council convened an emergency session, Dr. Chen's computer flagged something in the analysis of the ship's movements. The pattern seemed familiar, reminding her of something from her research into adaptive systems. She couldn't quite place it yet, but something about these supposedly superior beings suggested a critical weakness. If only she could figure out what it was. Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't left her basement laboratory in 3 days. Empty coffee cups littered her desk, and her computer screens glowed with endless streams of data. A group of teenage hackers in South Korea had managed to intercept what appeared to be Vraxian medical data, and she'd been analyzing it nonstop since receiving the encrypted files. This can't be right, she muttered, running the analysis for the 4th time. The results remained unchanged. The Vraxian biological structure was both impressive and bizarrely limited. Their cellular makeup showed signs of evolution in an environment that never changed, making them incredibly strong, but surprisingly inflexible. Across the world at the Pentagon, Colonel James Rodriguez studied weather radar data with growing interest. A light rain had started over Washington, D.C., and the Vraxian ships above were performing an intricate dance of constant adjustments. Their perfect formation wavered slightly with each gust of wind. "Play back the last 6 hours," he ordered, watching as the tactical display showed the ship's movements. "Focus on atmospheric disturbance patterns." The evidence was clear. The aliens were expending massive amounts of energy to maintain their precise positions against Earth's natural atmospheric variations. Even minor weather changes seemed to require significant compensatory maneuvers. Dr. Chen's phone buzzed with a message from a colleague in Beijing. The Chinese military had attempted to launch a weather satellite, and while the Vraxians had immediately shot it down, their response had revealed something crucial. The alien ships had briefly broken formation when passing through a layer of high-altitude cirrus clouds. "Their environmental control systems," she whispered, suddenly connecting the dots. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, correlating the medical data with the ship movements. "They can't handle variance." The Vraxians had evolved on a world with minimal environmental changes. No seasons, no significant weather patterns, nearly constant temperature and pressure. Their bodies were perfectly adapted to those stable conditions, making them physically superior in their comfort zone, but dramatically less capable outside of it. Colonel Rodriguez received Dr. Chen's preliminary report while watching another Vraxian ship struggle with a spring shower. The aliens' ground forces showed similar patterns. Their powered armor suits constantly adjusted for temperature and pressure changes that human soldiers barely noticed. "They're like deep-sea fish brought to the surface," he explained to General Santos during an emergency briefing. "Strong in their element, but vulnerable to conditions they never evolved to handle." Dr. Chen's laboratory had become the center of a growing research network. Scientists worldwide were sharing data, each discovery revealing new aspects of Vraxian vulnerability. Their ship's crystalline structure, while incredibly strong, demonstrated microscopic stress fractures from simple temperature variations. "They've never had to adapt," she explained during a secure video conference with military leaders. "Their technological advancement came from controlling their environment, not learning to live with it. Earth's natural variations are more than an inconvenience to them. They're a fundamental challenge to their entire way of existence." As the meeting concluded, a young lieutenant rushed in with new data. The Vraxians had just deployed ground forces in the Amazon rainforest. The entire unit had retreated within hours, their advanced equipment malfunctioning in the humid conditions they'd never encountered on their homeworld. The Brazilian Special Forces team moved silently through the Amazon rainforest's morning mist. Captain Isabella Santos led her squad through the dense undergrowth, their movements practiced and precise. Above them, a Vraxian patrol ship hummed softly, its sensors struggling to penetrate the thick canopy and heavy moisture in the air. Visibility dropping to 60%, the Vraxian commander reported to his base. "These primitive conditions are interfering with our equipment calibration." The frustration in his voice was clear even through the translated transmission that human intelligence officers monitored. Captain Santos smiled. Dr. Chen's research had proven correct. The aliens' advanced technology actually worked against them in Earth's varied environments. The Brazilian team had spent weeks studying how the morning fog affected Vraxian sensors, and now they were putting that knowledge to use. In the Himalayan mountains, another resistance cell prepared for their own operation. Nepal's elite mountain warfare unit had discovered that rapid altitude changes confused the aliens' environmental systems. Lieutenant Pemba Sherpa led his team up a narrow path that would bring them 500 meters higher in elevation within minutes. "Their suits can't compensate fast enough," he whispered into his radio, watching a Vraxian patrol below struggle with the thin air and changing pressure. The aliens' crystalline armor sparkled in the mountain sun, but their movements had become noticeably sluggish. Colonel Rodriguez coordinated these global efforts from a hidden command center. Screens showed similar operations unfolding worldwide. Australian Aboriginal guides leading strikes through extreme temperature variations in the outback, Canadian forces using rapid weather changes near the Great Lakes, and Bedouin warriors exploiting desert temperature swings. "Each environment offers a different advantage," he explained during a secure briefing. The Vraxians built their empire on controlling everything around them. Earth's natural chaos is their worst nightmare. Dr. Chen's latest analysis arrived, confirming what the field operations had discovered. The aliens' bodies required nearly 20 minutes to adjust to even minor environmental changes. Their technology, while advanced, couldn't bridge this biological gap. In the Amazon, Captain Santos' team reached their position. The morning mist had thickened, reducing visibility to mere meters. The Vraxian patrol above had stopped moving, their sensors nearly useless in the soup-like atmosphere. Phase 1 complete, she reported quietly. Moving to Phase 2. Around the world, other teams acknowledge. The coordinated strike began as nature itself seemed to join the resistance. In the Himalayas, Pemba's unit launched their attack from above, the rapid descent overwhelming the aliens' environmental controls. The Australian team struck during the critical moment between day and night when desert temperature swings peaked. The Vraxians' response proved sluggish and uncoordinated. Their perfect formations and advanced weapons meant little when they couldn't properly sense their targets or maintain their environmental stability. For the first time since their arrival, the invaders faced an enemy they couldn't simply overpower with superior technology. Back in her laboratory, Dr. Chen watched the incoming data with growing excitement. Each successful operation confirmed her theories and revealed new weaknesses to exploit. The Vraxians' greatest strength, their technological perfection, had become their greatest vulnerability in Earth's imperfect but dynamic environments. Priya Patel sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor in Mumbai, watching raindrops trace chaotic patterns down her window. The monsoon season had arrived, and with it, inspiration. Her laptop displayed intercepted Vraxian code, beautiful in its complexity but oddly rigid in its structure. "Look at how they fall," she whispered, recording the raindrops' paths with her phone's camera. 3 days of analyzing the water patterns had revealed something fascinating. While each drop's path seemed random, together they formed recognizable patterns that changed with wind and temperature. Her screen flashed with a message from Jin Hoen Sul, who had been helping her analyze the Vraxian communication protocols. "Their systems are perfect," he wrote, "too perfect. No redundancy, no room for error." Priya's fingers flew across her keyboard, implementing an idea that had struck her while watching the rain. She started coding an algorithm that mimicked the seemingly random, but naturally patterned behavior of monsoon raindrops. Dr. Chen's latest research data had confirmed something crucial. The Vraxians' computer systems, like their biology, had evolved in an environment where chaos was the enemy. Every process was optimized for perfect efficiency, leaving no room for the natural variation that Earth's systems had adapted to handle. "What if we don't try to break their code?" Priya explained during an encrypted video call with the Global Resistance's tech team. "What if we make it rain inside their networks instead?" Her virus was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of attacking Vraxian systems directly, it introduced small variations that grew like weather patterns, unpredictable yet following natural laws. Each change spawned others, creating a cascade of chaos that their rigid systems couldn't adapt to. Colonel Rodriguez watched the first test from his command center. They had isolated a captured Vraxian communication node to test Priya's code. On the monitors, the alien system's perfect crystalline data structure began to show signs of strain as the digital rain began to fall. "Their processors are trying to compensate," reported a technician, "but they can't predict where the next variation will appear. It's like trying to calculate every raindrop in a storm." The Vraxian node's attempts to restore order only made things worse. Like their ships struggling with Earth's atmosphere, their computers couldn't handle processes that didn't follow their precise patterns. The system began to fail in cascading waves that matched the monsoon patterns Priya had studied. "We've found their digital weakness," she announced, her voice trembling with excitement. "Their technology expects everything to follow perfect rules. But nature doesn't work that way." Teams worldwide began implementing her code, dubbed Project Monsoon. Each resistance cell added local weather patterns to the algorithm. Desert windstorms, Arctic blizzards, tropical hurricanes. The Vraxian network, designed for perfect efficiency, had no defense against Earth's natural chaos. Dr. Chen recognized the potential immediately. This isn't just about disrupting their communications, she explained to General Santos. Their entire technology is built on the same principles. Their ships, their weapons, their life support systems, they all share the same vulnerability. As reports of successful disruptions poured in, Priya stared at the rain outside her window. Nature had taught humanity to adapt to chaos. Now that lesson would help them fight back against an enemy that had never learned to bend with the wind. Storm clouds gathered over cities worldwide as Operation Thunderstorm began. In the Pentagon's Secure Command Center, Colonel Rodriguez watched as green lights appeared on the global tactical display. Each light represented a resistance team ready to strike, their positions carefully chosen to maximize Earth's natural advantages. All teams report ready, General Santos announced, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Weather systems are aligned as predicted. Priya's digital storm is primed for release. Dr. Chen's latest analysis flashed across the main screen, showing the Vraxian ships' increasingly erratic movements as they struggled with the approaching weather fronts. Their perfect formation had already begun to waver, their crystalline hulls reflecting the turbulent skies above. In the Sahara, Lieutenant Amira Hassan led her desert warfare unit toward a Vraxian ground base. The aliens had built their facility on seemingly stable ground, not realizing that the desert itself was their enemy. Sandstorm approaching from the southeast, she reported. Estimated impact in 5 minutes. Across the world in Siberia, Captain Viktor Petrov positioned his team near a Vraxian supply depot. The temperature had dropped 30 degrees in the last hour, and their sensors showed the alien facility's environmental systems straining to compensate. Target is experiencing multiple system failures, he confirmed. Their thermal regulators can't handle the rapid change. Priya's voice came through the command channel from Mumbai. Digital storm protocols uploaded to all teams. Ready to launch on your command. Her weather-based virus had been enhanced with patterns from every climate on Earth, creating a chaos the Vraxian systems had never encountered. The signal came at dawn over New York. General Santos gave a single command. Execute. Resistance teams struck simultaneously across every continent. In the Amazon, Captain Santos led her unit through the morning mist, their movements masked by the natural humidity that confused Vraxian sensors. The aliens' perfect tactical formations crumbled in the face of attacks they couldn't predict or detect. Lieutenant Hassan's team struck as the sandstorm engulfed the Vraxian base. Their advanced shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, proved useless against the simple, relentless assault of wind-blown sand. The crystalline structures of their equipment began to crack and fail. In the Arctic Circle, Norwegian special forces launched their assault as a blizzard intensified. The Vraxians, unable to cope with the extreme cold and shifting ice, found their superior technology transformed into a liability. Their weapons froze, their sensors blinded by snow. Deploying digital storm, Priya announced. Her virus spread through the Vraxian network like weather patterns across a continent. Their communication systems, already strained by environmental conditions, began to fail as the artificial chaos multiplied. Dr. Chen monitored the biological impact from her laboratory. Their environmental suits are failing worldwide, she reported. They're experiencing severe physical stress from conditions their bodies were never designed to handle. Colonel Rodriguez watched as the tactical display showed Vraxian units retreating across the globe. Their carefully planned invasion, based on technological superiority, had never accounted for the possibility that Earth itself would become their enemy. This is humanity's moment, General Santos declared, watching as more green lights indicated successful operations. We're not just fighting with weapons, we're fighting with the strength that Earth's challenges have taught us through millennia of adaptation. Supreme Commander Valthor stood aboard the Vraxian flagship, his crystalline armor showing microscopic stress fractures from constant environmental adjustments. The holographic displays surrounding him told a story that seemed impossible mere days ago. Across every continent, Vraxian forces were falling back before what their military doctrine had dismissed as primitive resistance. Another battalion lost in the Amazon sector, reported his second-in-command. The humidity has compromised their weapon systems. Our troops cannot maintain formation in these conditions. The officer's voice carried an unfamiliar tone. Uncertainty, an emotion rarely experienced in their perfectly ordered society. Dr. Chen watched the Vraxian command ship from her laboratory, noting its increasingly erratic movements. Her instruments detected massive energy expenditures as the vessel fought to maintain stability in a spring thunderstorm. Their entire military structure is based on perfect coordination, she explained to Colonel Rodriguez via video link. When that perfection breaks down, they have no backup protocols. In the Rocky Mountains, a Vraxian patrol encountered rapid weather changes that their simulations had never predicted. Their formation dissolved as individual soldiers struggled with environmental alerts that their training never covered. Some began making unauthorized adaptations to their equipment, a concept that would have been unthinkable in their rigid hierarchy. They're trying to copy our tactics, Colonel Rodriguez observed, watching drone footage of Vraxian units attempting to modify their strategies. But their command structure can't handle decentralized decision-making. Praya's digital storm had evolved beyond its original programming, learning from Earth's weather patterns to create ever more complex variations. Vraxian communication networks crashed as their systems tried to impose order on what they perceived as dangerous chaos. Their computers are like their minds, she explained during an emergency briefing. They can't accept that some patterns don't follow rules. Aboard the flagship, Valthor received reports of unprecedented behavior among his officers. Young commanders were questioning standard protocols, suggesting adaptations that violated centuries of military doctrine. Some had even begun studying human battle tactics, fascinated by their ability to function without perfect coordination. "Sir," a junior officer spoke up, breaking protocol. "Perhaps we should consider that our approach is fundamentally flawed for this environment." The chamber fell silent. Such a suggestion would have been grounds for immediate dismissal days ago. Now Valthor found himself considering it. General Santos recognized the shift in Vraxian behavior. "They're starting to fracture," she told her command staff. "Not just their formations, but their entire command philosophy." The tactical displays showed Vraxian units operating increasingly independently, some even achieving limited success by copying human adaptation strategies. Dr. Chen's latest analysis confirmed what many had begun to suspect. "The Vraxians aren't just fighting us," she reported. "They're fighting against their own nature. Their society evolved to control everything around them. Earth is teaching them that control is an illusion." In orbit, the once perfect formation of Vraxian ships had transformed into a scattered array as each captain adapted to local conditions independently. Their mighty armada, designed to operate as a single perfect unit, was learning the hard way that survival sometimes meant breaking formation. Commander Kavor stood at the viewing port of his scout ship, watching snow fall over the Rocky Mountains. 3 months ago, he would have seen such weather as a hostile force to be controlled. Now, he found himself fascinated by the intricate patterns of the falling flakes, each one unique yet part of a greater system. "Sir, High Command is demanding we return to formation," his communications officer reported. Kavor noted how the young officer's tone carried no judgment, a subtle but significant change from their usual rigid protocol. "Tell them we're maintaining our current position," Kavor replied, studying how his ship's adaptive shields, modified based on human weather data, handled the snowfall far more efficiently than the standard configuration. "The storm provides optimal cover for our observations." In her laboratory, Dr. Chen reviewed data from monitoring stations worldwide. "The Vraxian response patterns are shifting dramatically," she reported to Colonel Rodriguez. "Individual ships and units are developing unique solutions to environmental challenges. Their biological readings show signs of actual adaptation." Praya's latest analysis of Vraxian communications revealed an unprecedented development. Some alien units had begun implementing variations of her weather-based algorithms in their own systems. They're learning to embrace chaos, she explained during a secure briefing. Their networks are becoming more resilient by accepting imperfection. Supreme Commander Val Thor faced a growing crisis aboard the flagship. Young officers openly questioned traditional tactics, presenting evidence of successful adaptations from Earth-based operations. The rigid hierarchy that had defined Vraxian civilization for millennia was transforming before his eyes. "Look at these results," a junior tactical officer declared, displaying combat data from multiple theaters. Units that adapted to local conditions showed an 80% higher survival rate than those maintaining standard protocols. The chamber erupted in discussion, not in shock at the breach of protocol, but in eager analysis of the findings. Colonel Rodriguez watched drone footage of Vraxian ground forces near Mount Kilimanjaro. They had abandoned their traditional crystal-perfect formations, instead moving in fluid groups that responded to the terrain and weather. "They're not just copying our tactics," he observed. "They're understanding why they work." Kavor's ship recorded everything they learned about Earth's weather patterns, not as enemies to be conquered, but as phenomena to be understood. His crew had begun to see beauty in the planet's endless variations, recognizing that true strength lay in adaptation rather than control. Dr. Chen's latest report to General Santos highlighted the profound implications. "The Vraxians are experiencing a cultural revolution," she explained. "Their younger generation is embracing concepts that have been suppressed by their society for thousands of years: flexibility, adaptation, and the acceptance of change." In orbit, more ships began breaking from the main fleet's formation, their commanders choosing positions that worked with Earth's atmosphere rather than fighting against it. The once perfect crystalline pattern of the Vraxian Armada had transformed into a dynamic, responsive array. "Our greatest victory," General Santos reflected, "isn't that we've defeated their technology. It's that we've shown them a better way to exist." She watched as more Vraxian units adopted Earth-inspired tactics, their actions revealing a fundamental shift in their civilization's core philosophy. Dawn broke over New York City as the Vraxian flagship descended through scattered clouds, its crystalline structure no longer fighting the atmosphere but moving in harmony with it. The scene below would have been unthinkable weeks ago. Human leaders and Vraxian commanders meeting not in combat, but in dialogue. Supreme Commander Val Thor had chosen Central Park for the historic meeting, fascinated by how the carefully tended gardens existed alongside wild growth. Dr. Chen noticed his interest as she approached with General Santos and Colonel Rodriguez. "It's a perfect example of balance," she explained. "Control and chaos, working together." "We have much to learn from your world," Val Thor acknowledged, his translator conveying genuine humility. "Our pursuit of perfection nearly cost us everything. Instead, it brought us an invaluable lesson." Priya attended virtually from Mumbai, her screen showing the transformed Vraxian networks. Their once rigid systems now incorporated Earth-inspired patterns, creating a hybrid technology more resilient than either civilization had possessed alone. "The digital storm became a bridge," she explained to Commander Kavor, who had become one of the strongest advocates for change. "Earth's strategic position remains valuable," Val Thor continued, addressing the assembled leaders. "But we no longer seek to control it. We propose a partnership, a junction point not just in space, but between our peoples." The human delegation had prepared for many scenarios, but the Vraxians' proposal exceeded their hopes. The aliens offered to share their hyperspace technology, while humans would help them understand adaptation and environmental harmony. Both civilizations would grow stronger together. "Your species taught us something our empire forgot long ago," Kavor explained as he demonstrated their modified ships. "True strength isn't about imposing order on the universe. It's about learning to dance with chaos." Dr. Chen's research teams were already collaborating with Vraxian scientists, studying how their rigid biology had begun showing signs of adaptation. "Evolution isn't just about survival," she noted. "It's about growth, about becoming more than we were." Colonel Rodriguez found himself working with former adversaries, teaching them Earth military tactics, while learning the sophisticated technology behind their ships. The best victories, he told his students, are the ones where both sides win. In the Pentagon's command center, General Santos and Val Thor finalized the details of their new alliance. The Vraxian fleet would help establish Earth's first interstellar defense network, while human experts would help redesign their systems to be more adaptable. Praya's weather-based algorithms became the foundation for a new type of computer architecture, one that combined Vraxian precision with Earth's natural flexibility. Sometimes the best solutions come from embracing what you once feared, she told the young Vraxian engineers eager to learn from her. As the sun set on this historic day, the Vraxian ships above had abandoned their rigid formation entirely. They moved like leaves in the wind, their crystalline surfaces reflecting Earth's colors in a dance of light that symbolized the change in both civilizations. We came seeking the strategic location, Val Thor reflected, watching the sunset with his new human colleagues. Instead, we found a new way forward. Perhaps that was the greatest victory possible.